It's a commemorative, I beg your pardon, day in South Africa today as the country marks Youth Day, a day set aside to honor the student uprising of 16th of June 1976, which saw about 176 people killed when the apartheid era police opened fire on protesting students. Black students mobilized after the government made learning in Afrikaans mandatory.
At present, young people in the country are faced still with challenges that have evolved since 1976. And now to discuss further on this, we have Zaki Mamdu from the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you both, and thank you for having me on the show.
All right, quickly, let's talk about how, or if you can paint a picture of how the events of 1976, it seems like a long time ago for some people, but I'm sure there's still many people in South Africa today still impacted. So can you share with us how those events have impacted education politics through movements in present times?
Well, I think, an important thing to mention is that the events of 1976 were young students, and not university students, but schoolgoers in primary school and in high schools in South Africa took to the streets in Soweto to protest the imposition of Afrikaans as the medium language of learning in South Africa under the apartheid regime. So one, that action in itself was incredibly powerful. And what it really did is it highlighted and showcased, the true colors of apartheid and the absolute brutality of apartheid. And in that became a qualitative turning point in the anti-apartheid struggle, and in bringing all sorts of international solidarity, but also in intensifying and heightening, the mood here at home against apartheid, and really in many ways led to the eventual demise and collapse of apartheid in 1994. Since then, our education system has changed a great deal, but it is not one that is truly equal, and it is still one where many young people in South Africa are disadvantaged in comparison to some of their peers who may be, of a different class character, who may be better off and wealthier. We find, in many of our schools across the country today, that learners are still subjected to, a range of different issues that make learning difficult. Things like being in schools that are undercapacitated, that don't have enough teachers and staff, being in schools that are overcrowded, where there are up to 50, 60 learners in a class. And of course, then there's other issues where a lot of our schools don't have proper infrastructure, and tragically, we've lost a number of very young children who have fallen into what we call pit latrines or pit toilets, and essentially drowned in feces. So there are a lot of these kinds of issues and more, which greatly impact the ability of young people to realize their full potential and learn in South Africa today, because it seems that it's very much, based on one's class character, whether they can, properly access quality education, as well as the other forms of care and nutrition that are needed to make sure that young people can thrive. And that is the education sector, at least, that is part of the issues that we are confronted by.
Zaki, you've highlighted a lot of issues. We know that the 1976 uprising was targeting education and freedom of expression, we would say, for young people, just ensuring that young people had a better life. But you've also brought it back to some of the challenges that are being experienced even in 2022. Let's talk about the role of the government. What has the government done to sort out these issues? It's heartbreaking to hear that people are drowning, young people are drowning in pit toilets whilst trying to school. What would you say the role of the government has been in all of this?
Well, certainly the government needs to play a stronger role and needs to have a stronger hand in addressing these issues. And there has been progress that has been made to a certain extent, but not enough at all. So I think in the 10 years following the collapse of apartheid, a fair amount was done, and there was a lot of energy and hope in the country that was and a lot of development initiatives were being spearheaded by government in building infrastructure and development across the country. But if we look at the entire scope of the last 27 years since apartheid collapsed, that developmental project has ultimately been a failure because so many of our kids are still grappling with these issues. So I mean, part of what we're doing today, in memory and in commemoration of the martyrs of 1976, who sacrificed so much for our freedom, is to assert the fact that that freedom hasn't been entirely realized, and so we are currently. That's why I'm in my car. We're currently at the Loftus Versfeld Stadium in Tshwane, in Pretoria, and we're planning a massive Youth Day parade for justice and change, where we've partnered with over 90 different organizations from civil society, your NGOs, your civic organizations, your community organizations, your student and youth organizations, in taking forward a progressive agenda that deals with a range of different issues, of which education is a central theme. But to really go to the seat of power, to the seat of government in South Africa, which is the union buildings, to say that more needs to be done. We need our government to absolutely realign its priorities so that it does everything in its power to meet the needs of our people. And the reality is that government is not doing that.
All right, let's quickly, just quickly jump into talking about the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. It is going to be having a Youth Day parade for justice. Quickly, also, let us understand what the aim of the foundation is with this parade, and of course, moving forward also.
Yes. So maybe I should start with the foundation itself. So the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation is a legacy foundation, which is, its namesake is Ahmed Kathrada, or Uncle Kathy, as we like to say, who was a anti-apartheid activist and struggle stalwart, and also a Robben Islander who was locked up on Robben Island alongside, Nelson Mandela and others. And at the foundation, a big part of Uncle Kathy's legacy is trying to inspire young people to take up activism and to be a part of making positive change in their society and to be active citizens. So at the foundation, that is the kind of work that we orientate ourselves towards. We set up clubs, youth clubs, which are essentially youth-led civic structures in various communities, and they tackle and seek to address the various issues that they are confronted by in their context. And so, through our work with young people and with other organizations, and of course, us being young people ourselves, our program is a team of people who are all below the age of 26. We are very aware of the issues that young people are grappling with in our society today. And in that, we've identified the key issues, which are things from unemployment, which, in South Africa, if we look at the expanded definition of unemployment, between the ages of 18 and 24, we have a 65.5% youth unemployment rate, which is just, it's completely unsustainable, and in fact, it's dangerous and could create a very volatile situation in our society. And then, of course, we have some of the worst crime statistics in the world, of which gender-based violence, the violence that is perpetrated against women and children and our non-binary siblings, the members of the LGBTQI+ community, is also out of control in South Africa. And then, we have other issues, as the world does, around the existential threat of climate change and dealing with a government that doesn't take that threat seriously enough and hasn't done enough to mitigate the impacts of climate change and to kind of transition towards a green economy, as well as issues from corruption, which absolutely plague the public sphere in all of its, in all corners of government in our society.
Absolutely.
So these are just some of the issues that are outlined, or that we have outlined alongside our partners and young people who we work with, that we hope to table today at this parade. And we've also, through discussion and deliberation, we've put together a memorandum which also puts forward some of the solutions that we as young people, really believe could help us build a better society, and a society, that we are proud to call home.
Absolutely. Zaki, there's so much that can be done, but we want to be a part of the work that you're doing. How can young people around the world, around the continent especially, lend their voices? Very quickly, in a few seconds, how can we lend our voices to ensure that we amplify the work that you're doing in commemorating the World Youth Day?
I would encourage young people all across the African continent to reach out and to get in touch with us. Our social medias are at Kathrada Youth, or you can email youth@kathradafoundation.org if you'd like to get involved with the work that we are doing. But also, just listening to the headlines and your stories earlier, it's very clear that the crises that we are confronted by are not unique to South Africa.
Absolutely.
They are shared across the African continent, across the global South. And so we need to build links. We need to, create solidarity between organizations of young people across the continent and across the global South, because our crises are global. But together we can be the hope for a new kind of world, and one in which we can all live in happily, safely, and with adequate access, to the things that meet our basic needs.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Zaki Mamdo, for joining us. All the best with the parade. And we know that it's a holiday in South Africa. We hope that the lives who were lost in 1976 and all the people who started this journey, that their work will not be in vain. We'll be following up with the stories and lending our voices here as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. 176, and of course, that takes us back to 1976 with that very, very sad incident. Like I said earlier, some people, may, have forgotten, but it lives on in South Africa's history for a really, really long time. And we hope that the best comes out, out of the memory of those persons.
Absolutely.